from what someone says, you can hear what's behind it, right? If Rebbe said they won't find you, you're fine. So they guard you anywhere, you're going to get drafted, but the Rebbe will take care of you.
Amen.
So when you say the Mets didn't lose, I can hear from behind it that there's a message behind the message. I didn't play. I get it. Okay.
So speaking about baseball,
we were speaking about baseball. We were speaking about the Mets.
So what?
He didn't even hear what I said.
No, I know. In inner meaning, the panemius of the thing. Yeah. When the freak Rebbe came to the United States for a visit, I think it was 27. I'm not sure.
30.
So people drove him around different places and stuff, and he finally said, we really need to put more yeshivas up in the United States here in all these big cities. So the person who was with him said, Rebbe, we don't have enough funds in a lot of, there's not enough Jews in there. So he said to them, and this is what I read this story, and he said, you have at least 10 baseball teams in different cities, and some of them aren't that big. If you can have 10 baseball teams, you can have yeshivas in every city.
Oh, there you go. So the Mets are a raya for the fact that we should build more yeshivas.
That was the time when you could make $1 million out of a baseball team. There's so many Jews in baseball.
There were a lot of Jews in baseball in the old days. Well, how did you get a job? You were a boxer, you were a baseball player. A lot of Jewish boxers in the early days, a lot of Jewish boxers.
That's right.
Yeah, there's no such thing, but in those days, Irish and Jews, they were the boxers. Had to make a living.
They wouldn't let us do anything else.
Okay, I'd like to finish the Sicha. It's not that long to go, and then there's a beautiful mimer. Obviously, we're not going to finish the mimer in a day and a half, but we can see it. It's a beautiful mimer that the Rebbe said 53 years ago today. So we'll see if we can't start that mimer. What?
Ice cream?
Ice cream in Chassidus there's never ice cream.
Oh, no.
Only in Nigla. Chassidus is better than ice cream. Vabir panimi in them. Remember, what was our question? Our question was that matzah, on one hand, you don't have to taste it. On the other hand, it has to have a taste of matzah. You can't have matzah that doesn't taste like matzah. It doesn't taste like flour and water would taste, or do taste. So that seems somewhat contradictory. You don't have to taste it. What difference does it make what the taste is? And how do we know we don't have to taste matzah? What's the halacha regarding matzah? You can swallow it like a pill. Right? Okay. Vabir pnimi in them. The explanation of this. Das was by mitzvah achilas matzah muss nit sein matzah mit sein tam matzah is not mitzad den gavra. So that's in terms of the person. Weil by the Yidden in Geulas Mitzrayim, was is gekommen milamayla, the Yidden by Geulas Mitzrayim, at the time of Geulas Mitzrayim, we read this yesterday, but I want you to see it because otherwise you won't understand what you'll forget. Right? The Yidden in Geulas Mitzrayim, was is gekommen milamayla, all came from above. An Indian in Israel, in welchen sie haben nicht getan, they didn't have a taste. Und der Ribur is blois murchach achilas matzah. You have to eat matzah, ba'ofen azizal veren damu basar kibsara. You have to eat matzah in such a way that it becomes your flesh and blood, becomes mamish part of you, eating it. As the geula zal nis atzem veren mit netzem anigal. That what's eating matzah all about? Trying to internalize the geula. Become one with the reality of matzah. What's matzah? Matzah is the geula. Matzah represents the geula, the revelation of the Eibishter from above. And we want to internalize that. So what do? We take eat it. We eat the matzah. Ober, right? So what this in brackets is the geula zal nis atzem veren. It becomes one, like etzem. Mitten etzem anigal, with the essence of the one who is redeemed. Ober lav davka as heich eichel itam, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that the palate that eats will taste. I'm passing it here, but I was using it here to explain this idea. Lav dafka as erzal feeling from tam matzah, but he doesn't necessarily feel any taste or hana from tam matzah. So the mitzad the gavra, the cheftza is a cheftza of geula. So it's a cheftza of matzah. So it has to be matzah. The Gavra does, and the Gavra has to eat the matzah in order to internalize the matzah. But it might be that the Gavra is not in a place where he can necessarily experience that. Or b'mitzad der chefza, in terms of the object, the matzah itself, tzivu Hashem machti mitzias the mitzvahs matzah. The command of HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates a new reality, and that reality is this mitzvah called matzah. Mitzad der Eibishter, in terms of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is in their geula. The matzah represents geula, as we said, from above. Gegeben gevorn, he gives over their kayach, the power. So Ibershtel and Yidden, that the Yidden can internalize, as they zalen nigel werden, that they will become themselves redeemed. So the Eibishter, by virtue of the mitzvah of matzah, imbues in the matzah the ability to affect the Jew. Oich mitzad zer mitzias, also mitzad mitzias of the Jew, not just an imposition from above. From Tumas Mitzrayim, to extract himself from Tumas Mitzrayim. And der Rebbe, therefore, Muzdi Hefza, therefore the object of matzah has to be connected to the purpose of matzah. And what's the purpose of matzah? To give some tam to the geula, to the yid. Through the mitzvah, the yid can actually start to taste. Now, the yid doesn't have to taste, because matzah represents also that aspect of the geula that is coming from above and is not affecting us. But the fact that the Eibishter gave us a mitzvah of matzah allows us, that's the nesinas kayach, that's the empowerment, to internalize that. And how do we internalize that? By eating matzah. So what do we have to eat? I might not taste it. I could taste it. I should taste it. But I might not. Okay, if I don't taste it, that's mitzad me. But the matzah itself has to have a taste of geula. It has to have a taste of matzah, because I'm imbuing. I'm eating geula, so to speak. Eating matzah is eating geula, right? Eating emunah. Matzah the first night is michle de me'emusa. It's food of emunah. Eating matzah, it's like in eating emunah. The Eibishter is giving us a nesinas kayach to be closer to him. The second night it's michle das vasa. It's of health, right? So here in Eretz Yisrael, unfortunately, we don't get the second night to be a Yom Tov, but still eat the matzah. You don't have to eat a kazayah, so it's never say that. But the matzah itself has to be matzah. And what's matzah? It has a tam. What's that tam? The tam of geula, the tam of matzah. Now, what particular aspect of geula? Now, I will say something very, very beautiful. Right? The Rebbe moves the chefza, the object, the matzah itself, matzah atzma, how can a tam matzah has to have a taste of matzah? Because matzah represents a reality, and that reality has to be expressed in matzah. Weil die geula atzma hat gegeben, the geula itself has been given, hat sie das gedacht früher haben, dem koyach. What is the geula itself? It gives the power uf tam, in this tam. But it might be, in actuality, hat sich das aufgetan bei Yidden, bei Matan Torah. That reality ultimately in history, when did the Yidden start to taste the geula? Dafka by Matan Torah. Okay, but like we said earlier, but what's hidden in the geula of Mitzrayim? Also that taste. What represents that taste? Matzah. Has to be a taste of matzah. Matzah has to have the taste of matzah, which is the taste of geula. I might not taste it. Matter of fact, the Yidden in Mitzrayim didn't taste it. I mean, they didn't taste the geula. So therefore, there's the mitzad the gavra, mitzad the person, you have to taste the matzah, because matzah represents also that level of geula that is transcendent of us. Right? Okay, that's true. So that aspect of matzah. Does that mean it's usher to taste it? No, chas v'shalom. We should taste it. Halavai, we should taste the matzah. Meaning we should internalize it. That's why we eat it. We eat it, and by virtue of the mitzvah of eating matzah, the Eibishter gives us a koyach to internalize the whole process of geula, and we can internalize that process on the 15th of Nisan now, not only by Matan Torah. Okay, that being said, back then, when did they do it? They did it by Matan Torah. Therefore, the matzah represents the idea of geula being imposed from above, where we don't have a taste. But the matzah itself has a taste. Why? Because matzah is geula. And where did we see that expressed also? Why do we drink the 4 cups on Pesach dafka? Because included in the 3 is the 4th. Included in the 3 levels of matzah is the 4th level of wine. Right? It's just hidden. Might be hidden. Now we could reveal it. We, through our Veda, could reveal it and taste the matzah. And if we taste the matzah, so we taste the geula. Okay. But mitzad the gavra, matzah represents that level of geula that's beyond him. Okay, so then he doesn't have to taste it. It's not part of the Iker mitzvah. But the matzah has to be matzah. What's he not tasting? Geula. What's he not tasting? Apple? There's nothing happening. The matzah is matzah. The matzah has to be matzah. It has to have the taste of geula, which is that taste of matzah. Do I taste it? Hopefully this year I taste it. Do I have to taste it? I don't know. Because there's a level of geula that's simply the nesinas koyach from above to bring myself to a place where I can become redeemed. That might take time. In Mitzrayim it took time. By us, it's already after Chatzos, right? The famous Maamar of the Rebbe, the difference between matzah before Chatzos and matzah after Chatzos, and why it is that we, Dafka in the Haggadah, mentioned the story of the matzah that didn't rise after Chatzos, as opposed to the mitzvah of matzah before Chatzos. Rebbe explains that matzah before Chatzos, this is the last real Maamar we heard from the Rebbe, matzah zu, tafshin mem tes. The Rebbe said sort of a Maamar, well, half-cream sort of a Maamar. There were two more Maamarim that were Maamarim, and they sort of turned into Sichas. This was mamish a Maamar. Everybody was shocked because the Rebbe hadn't said a Maamar for over a year. In Tafshin Mem Tes, Matzah Zu. And in the Maamar, the Rebbe answers the questions that we've been asking all along. Why is it that in Haggadah we talk about the matzah that happened because of the story? Why don't we talk about the mitzvah? There's a mitzvah before the story. And whether it's a machlekes in the Gemara, whether the mitzvah was given on the 5th or the mitzvah was given on the 10th, exactly when the mitzvah was given. Okay, we said it, but we have a mitzvah of matzah. Right? So why not just say the reason we eat matzah is because the Rebbe told us to. So Rebbe explains there's two different levels of matzah. There's the matzah before Chatzos, before we left Mitzrayim. That matzah is lacking a vav. It's matzot, but written mem tzadi taf. Why? Because it hasn't been nimshach. The vav is bringing it down below. It hasn't been revealed in Elam Hazam yet. The matzah after Chatzos, we're already in a state of geula, and that matzah is written with a vav. And the Rebbe says the answer to that age-old question, al pi Chassidus, how could they possibly have dough that could turn into chametz? So the Rebbe says that because they were now in such a state, that dough couldn't turn into chametz. It wouldn't turn into chametz because the kedusha of the geula was so powerful that there was no room for chametz with that dough, and that's why we mentioned that matzah dafka in the Haggadah, because that's the matzah after midnight. Then the Rebbe says there's a matzah after Matan Torah that's even higher than that, and that's the matzah that we eat every year. It's a 3-page Maamar. The first 2 pages are learnable. The end of the Maamar is very hard. Over mitzad dem chefza, the chefza has to be an Indian of, it has to be a piece of geula. Afal pk, last 2 paragraphs. Nevertheless, can men yoytze zayin achilas matzah. Nevertheless, you can fulfill your obligation with eating matzah, nein mit lechem oini, und nit mit matzah shira, only with lechem oini and not with matzah shira. Why? Because, wait a minute, matzah could have a taste. No, it has to have a taste of matzah. It has to have the taste of geula. Das heißt, as der tam, the flavor of matzah, was is faran muss sein in der matzah, is durch ois tam matzah, has to taste only like matzah, only like flour and water. It can't have any accompanying taste. And what is that in Aveda? Aber nit kein, we'll see. Sorry. Aber nit kein Geschmack v'tainug was kommt mitzad epis was is nit matzah. But not a geschmack and a tainug. Say geschmack is tainug in Yiddish. Not a pleasure that comes from anything that isn't matzah. Either tam from matzah shiur, which is the taste of matzah shiur, which is matzah made with apple juice or orange juice or some other kind of juice. So that it has another taste. So you get pleasure from that other taste. No. If you're going to have a taste of matzah, it has to have a taste of matzah itself. So the matzah itself has to be pure, unadulterated matzah. Flour and water, nothing else. Has to have tam matzah. I don't have to taste it. Okay, Beseder. But I'd like to taste it because the taste is a sweet taste, because it's a taste of geula. It takes a lot of work to internalize that. And what is this in a Veda? The Rebbe says such a beautiful word. When Veda spiegelt sich up. And this is also expressed. There's a lot of words in Yiddish for express. This is expressed in a Veda Sa'adam, like this. So what's all this in a Veda? Tam matzah, the taste of matzah, is der Geschmack in Kabbalah soul. Wow. The pleasure someone gets from Kabbalah soul. What's Kabbalah soul? Kabbalah soul, I don't taste it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I know I have to do it. I might have a very sophisticated understanding as to why I'm supposed to do it, but I don't taste it. I'm doing it because I'm supposed to do it. It's the right thing to do. I'm committed to doing it. It's the right thing to do. I understand it's a healthy thing to do. But I don't love to have any feeling in it. I mean, I'm doing it not because I feel it. I'm doing it because the Rebbe just said to. What's tam matzah? It's the taste of matzah. The sweet taste of Kabbalah soul. The geschmack a person gets from doing what the Eibishter wants for one reason and one reason only, because the Eibishter wants it. What does he get out of it? Not interested. Don't talk to me about it. Not interested. I do, I don't. It's irrelevant. Why are you doing this? Because God likes it. That's the geschmack of tam matzah. Because that's matzah. Because what's matzah? We said earlier, matzah was iskafia, right? That the geula, it's one line, the Rebbe threw it in. The matzah was mitzad, the geula mitzad is kafia. The Eibusher is imposing this geula. Not that we're upset, we're into it, we're having a good time, we're more than happy to leave Mitzrayim. But it's not happening through us, in us, it's just the Eibusher doing it to us. Okay, so it's in his kafia. We're just going along for the ride. He's schlepping us along. Not against our will per se, but it's not coming from us. That's iskafia, Kabbalah soul. Kabbalah soul isn't against our will necessarily. Right? Other Rebbe, Kabbalah soul can be. The Chassidus Kabbalah soul is Kabbalah soul b'simcha. Overjoyed to do what the Eibishter wants. Why? Because the Eibishter wants it. I do understand it. I do understand it. I don't understand it. That's irrelevant. What I understand also isn't what it is necessarily. Who knows? I really understand. What I understand is what it really is. Right? There's such a beautiful word from Rabbi Kaplan yesterday. Maybe he said it. No, he probably didn't say it in the Farbrengen the other night because I think he saw it yesterday. He just the day before. He saw the Rebbe says. Does someone have a siddur? Here's a siddur. Can I please see the siddur? I'm gonna have to find the nasi. Right. 391. Let's see if it's 391.
No, this one's 391.
So let's try that.
394.
I'll do that one. 391.
391 to 394. Somewhere in there.
It's okay. I remember announcing 391 on Thursday. That's the beginning. Okay. So what do we say in the Nasi? Now, what do we say? Such an amazing thing. This is the Kabbalah soul of being a chassid. We say the Hiratze. So we say that this Nasi, yesterday it was Yisachar, right? Today it's Zvulun, right? Beis Nisan. The Rebbe Shabi Sachai, Limud Torah, right? So, some Nasi of a tribe that you're not even necessarily part of brought a korban 3,336 years ago, and you talk about that korban. Now, the fact that you talk about that korban, what does it say? So I'll read it in English, right? I can't read it in English. These words sound funny in English. Right? Shetara Yerim B'chasdag HaGodol HaNishmos and Kedishin. This incredible revelation of light on all the neshamas. The Mischadshim B'tziparim Mitzaftzvim, and we're chirping like birds. We're little birds chirping away. Mishabchim Mitzalim, we're praising Alam Kedisha, the holy people. The birds are the Malachim and the right. Rebbeinu Shalom. As a result of all this, right? I just read about this Nasi, who I never met, and I'm not part of his Shevet, right? You're not alai. I'll call in Nitzutzin Kedishin. All the holy sparks should illuminate me, and all the holy lights Haklulas b'kedushas hashevet that are included in the holiness of this shevet. Lahavin lahaska b'zar and this should help me understand your Torah. Ubiyir secha and be in awe of you. V'lasesh v'tzein chakol yimei chayai, and that I should do your will all the days of my life. Ani v'zari v'zer zari, me and my children and my children's children, mi'ata v'yadoilam, forever. Amen. Beautiful. I just read about the Nasi from Shevet Yisachar. 36 years ago, he brought a korban. And I read about it. And in the schus of reading about it, I asked the Eibishter that there should be all this incredible bracha. So Rebbe says, imagine the bracha you get from your connection to the Nasi, who's your Nasi, and who everything you do is connected, and that everything you do is connected to his Ratzah. The Frierdiker Rebbe, that's what the Rebbe is talking about. Imagine the brachas. You're talking about a Nasi who was 336 years ago and brought some karbanos. One day, this guy brought karbanos. And just talking about the karbanos that this holy Jew did one day and connecting to that, all those brachas that you talk about in the Hiratza and after the Nasi. The Rebbe says, imagine the brachas you're bringing down for you and your children and your family and the world, that if you're connected to the Nasi, for whom it's not one korban once 33 hours, it's that everything you do is connected to the guidance of that Nasi to make sure that you're doing those things that will successfully bring about a revelation of Elokus and Elam Hasa. That's what the Rebbe says. Wow, that's such an unbelievable thing. Okay. And so you get a geschmack from the Kabbalah soul. Kabbalah soul is nit mitzad das. It's not necessarily that I understand it all. I mean, I understand why I have to have Kabbalah soul. But I understand why the Eibishter wants me to do this as opposed to do this. Okay, there's people who explain it to you, and it's so deep, and it's incredible, and it's amazing, and there are all sorts of different kavanas that you can have, and all that's true. All that's true, and it's amazing and wonderful. But bottom line, why do you put on tefillin? Because God wants you to. Do good things happen? All sorts of good things happen. Right? But you're doing it because you want all those good things. The Rebbe asked a question in the Haggadah. The Ben Chacham. The Ben Chacham asks, what's the toelet in all this? What do I get out of this? So the Rebbe says, I understand. If he's a Ben Chacham, how can he possibly ask such a question? How can a Chacham ask a question as to what do I get out of this? Isn't he smart enough to know that that's not what it's all about? How can we call him the Chacham? That's the dummy who would ask such a question, not the Chacham. Chacham asks a question. And we answer him and tell him, it's good, you get all sorts of good stuff. It's a hard mimer, but someday write down in your book. You have to learn the mimer ki yishalcha bincha in chelik. Might be taka chelik dalet. So chelik dalet might taka be here too. I'm not sure. The mimer that I want to start learning with you today. So I think it also it's also chelik dalet. It was Yud Aleph Nisan Tavshin Lam Ches ki yishalcha bincha. But that's the question, and the bincha is the ben chacham. And that's the question that we ask. The Chacham asks, what do I get out of this? Then he's not a Chacham. Okay, say this an answer to the question relative to the Chacham. But what's matzah? The geschmack in Kabbalah soul. Doing what the Eibishter wants is a geschmack. I understand it more, I understand it less. Doesn't mean I shouldn't understand it, I'm supposed to understand it. But the reason we do it isn't because we understand it. The reason we do it is because the Eibishter likes it. Why does he like it? I haven't got a clue. Nit mitzad das. No lechem oini. It's lechem oini. And what do we say? Oini is ein oni ela b'das. Matzah represents that place where we don't understand. Okay, so even if I do understand, the Rebbe Shab, Rambam of Chassidus. What did he say the avodah and teaching Chassidus on a level that was never taught before, right? Ordering Chassidus in a way that to this day, his Maamar are the Maamar that students learn if they want to get a very clear picture of Chassidus, sort of Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet. It's called the Rambam Chassidus. He put it all together. Open the yeshiva, where learning Chassidus is part of the daily fare, as opposed to something you do beinus darim, between the different study periods. All right? Okay. What does the Rebbe Shab say? What's the afraid of our generation? Not Seichel. Kabbalah Soul. Rebbe Shab. Mr. Seichel. Adarabba. Your side is base Nisan. Yisachar. Torah. It's Kabbalah Soul. Nit mitzam das. That doesn't mean you don't learn. You have to learn. Nar lechem reini b'das. Das is nit der Geschmack, was kommt from Seichel or the Midas. This is not the Geschmack that comes from intellect or emotions. Was sie bringen Tam und Hana, they bring a certain understanding and pleasure. Nar sein Kabbalah Soul is by him mit the Geschmack. Kabbalah Soul. Kabbalah Soul is, I don't necessarily understand it. I don't necessarily connect to it. I don't necessarily feel it. Even if I do. But I don't necessarily, right? It's like matzah, right? I could taste matzah, but I don't necessarily taste matzah. But matzah is not about me tasting it. Matzah is about matzah being kedusha, which is Kabbalah Soul. Why do we do what we do? Because it's holy. Why is it holy? I know more about it, I know less about it. Even if I know a lot about it, I realize I don't know anything about it. Because how can I possibly know? Talking about the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Chochmah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So even though that part of that is revealed to us in an astounding way, it's beyond belief what's revealed to us. That being said, it's still the Ratzon, it's the infinite Ratzon of the Eibusher and the infinite Chochmah of the Eibusher. So how can I possibly know that truly? I know what's revealed. And what's it all about? The Geschmack of Kabbalah Soul. The Geschmack of doing what the Eibusher wants because the Eibusher wants it. Why? Because the Eibusher is good. If you're connected to that, it's good. Is it good for us? It's also good for us. Is that why you're connected? It's also good for you, 100%. Why? Hopefully, why are we connected? It's the right thing to do. Right? Why do we want to know the truth? Because it's true. It's true. It makes me a better person. It elevates me. No, that's true. There's no question. Right? But when do I get out of how does Pesach get me out of myself? It's so interesting. What's the Iker Mitzvah? Matzah. What's matzah? The Geschmack of Kabbalah Soul. Eating this piece of cardboard with a Geschmack. It's nothing like that. First, you make the Baruch and you leave to the left and start eating your matzah. Seder night. It's unbelievable. Start eating matzah. All starts again. The whole Veda starts again. Okay. Give me 5 minutes to make some copies. This will start what time? We'll have 20 minutes today. And an hour tomorrow. We'll go through. It's just a beautiful moment. We're not going to see the whole moment, but it's a beautiful, beautiful moment. And I apologize. I didn't get here early enough to copy it before. But that was Superbus's fault.
What's going on, Doc?
Good morning.
Make a copy for the bottom.
How was the States?
It was good. Thank you.
Where? In
Jersey, Kenya.
ah, and he does that in like the main shul.
He does something true with the movement for that.
And is there a big like Is there all some like non-religious people there as well? Or-
Yeah. Right, I don't know what the percentages are, to be honest.
Right, so I would think that there's not so many non-religious Jews. And maybe from the surrounding areas, I know that there's a lot of like wealthy surrounding areas near Teaneck.
Yes.
They're like the shore, that's the Jersey Shore.
No. Teaneck is like, Teaneck is North Jersey, and it's like on the level of the George Washington Bridge, so so it's like, George Washington Bridge, it's like, less than 5 miles from the George Washington Bridge going straight west.
Noah's Ark.
Those
I know what-
corned beef sandwich.
Yeah, and the pastry shop there.
Oh,
But
butterfly.
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 Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, beef sandwiches.
Oh yeah, big sandwiches.
Yeah.
Where is this?
That's in
Like
Teaneck,
how
Jersey.
big? How big are we talking? Like this
We're
big?
talking big.
Really?
Big.
Yeah, yeah. big
Moshe
sandwich.
Ness.
You buy one sandwich, you cut it in half, take half of it home.
No.
The size he just gave was big. That's
No,
big.
Moshe, what you gave was short. The short stack.
Shorts. That's right. You bet it.
No, but I've seen similar stuff in
It's
Chicago.
good, it's good. Then they give you a big bowl, like the old days, a big old sour fish.
I think the very good here, coleslaw too.
Yeah.
Coleslaw's great. I've been there about 3 years. It's good.
Wow. There's a place that we used to go to called Lito's Kosher Deli. It's not actually like kosher, it's just style. So good. Greatest place on earth. We didn't know fully that it wasn't kosher either. Like we were just assuming like Lito's Kosher Deli got it right. But like since then I've not found a place like that where they give you like pickles. It's like
This place, go there.
Well, that's very good.
I'll
Take one of those.
Yeah.
Here, there's I think 4 or 5 that are stapled there. How many are stapled there?
It's not.
It's not kosher. It hasn't been
How
there
many?
for a
I'm trying to
very,
get these
very
guys
long
back.
time.
How many of those are
There's 3.
stapled? 3? No, there's more
Oh,
than that.
4.
4? Okay. 5.
I think we might have been there.
Six. Okay, this is a mimer, as I said. This is a mimer that the Rebbe said 53 years ago today. It was said on Gimel Nisan, Tafshin Lamed Beis. It was a Shabbos Parshas Vayikra. It's a very important, and now obviously we're not going to finish the mimer. I'm giving you the whole mimer. You can finish it yourself. You can sit with some shlukim. You can do whatever you want. It's an amazing, beautiful mimer. It came out, as you see, for Beis Nisan Tafshin Mun. This mimer came out. So I know someone was a little younger than some of us in the room. Who was a Tomim in those days. He's a little older than some of. That's it. That should be it. Okay. All right. That should be it. All right, that one, the last one I just gave that an extra page. Say it then. He remembers very, very well when this mimer came out. It came out one night. Beis Nisan, Tafshin Nun, 1990. He was at that point he was learning in 770, and Asher Farkish told me the story that he was. This is what 35 years ago, so he's what 56, 7, 8. He was a Talmud in 770. The Maamar came out. Everybody was very excited. Everybody had a copy of the Maamar, and Rav Yol, as fast as Rav Yol could run in those days, he could run a little bit. It was 35 years ago. Rav Yol ran down with a copy in his hand, sat down in 770, and started teaching the Maamar. He was so excited the Maamar came out. He started teaching the Maamar. It came out 5 minutes before. He ran downstairs with the Maamar. There's a new Maamar. And now he was working on it, but when it came out, Rav Yol ran downstairs and started teaching the Maamar. Whoever Baruch gathered around, he taught the Maamar. So Maamar said, Tafshin Lamed Beis. So it said, today, Gimel Nisan, 33 years ago. It's about the union of Karbonis. It's just a beautiful, beautiful Maamar. Vayikra el Moshe, you'll recognize this pasuk, because this pasuk is the source of a Maamar called Basi Lagani that we spent some time learning. Vayikra el Moshe v'yadabra v'ayelov me'oil moed. Kadosh Baruch Hu called out to Moshe and spoke to him from the oil moed. Adam ki yakriv mikem, and what's the first thing the Eibishter said? Karbonos. Taught him the laws of Karbonos. V'tzarich lahavin. Now, I hope, it's hard to remember everything, right? But I hope you remember the first Rashi in this week's Parsha. The first Rashi in this week's Parsha asks, was there a kriya, a calling, by all of whenever the Eibishter spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu? And the maskana is yes. And what's this calling? A sign of chiba, a sign of dearness. Now, but it doesn't say it most times. Most times it says v'yadaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. It doesn't say v'yikra Hashem el Moshe v'yadaber Hashem el Moshe. It says v'yadaber Hashem. But this Vayikra at the beginning of Sefer Vayikra and Parshas Vayikra is an avtipus, is a prototype for how the Eibishter spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu. First, the Eibishter would call out Moshe in a notion of dearness, Moshe, and then tell him the Torah. Vayikra el Moshe v'yadaber v'ayelov me'oil moed Adam ki yakri. Tzarich lahavin, the Rebbe says. You have to understand. Lakol dibros, lakol amiros. All of the things that the Eibishter said to Moshe Rabbeinu, kol tzivuyim, all of the commandments, kadma kriya. They were preceded by kriya, a call, which Rashi says is lashon chiba, a language of dearness, right? That's unique to Moshe. And by Bilam, it doesn't say v'yikra, v'yikar, something that's a happenstance. It's not an act of dearness. V'lama nemra kriya. So Rebbe asks a very, very powerful question. So then, why is this idea of kriya, which applies to everything that the Eibishter said to Moshe throughout the whole Torah, why is it said beferish explicitly b'parshas Karbonos dafka? Why does it say right before Karbonos? There's 600 mitzvahs in the Torah. The Eibishter could take any mitzvah or any group of mitzvahs and use it as the prototype for the idea of Vayikra el Moshe. Now, dafka Karbonos. V'hine, but Pashtus, simply, Yesh Lemer, you could say, that historically, when did this take place? When did the first pasuk in our parsha take place? After what we read last week. We finally built the Mishkan, and everything's in order, and there's Gilui Shechina, and the first thing that the Eibishter says to Moshe Rabbeinu is, okay, here's the laws of Karbonos. So it's the first one. So by the first one, you say Vayikra, and that's a prototype for every time the Eibishter speaks to Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, true. Hinebe Pashtus, Yesh Lemer, the Rebbe says, the Masha Kosi Vayikra, that which it says Vayikra, Parshas Karbonosu, Dafka in the Parsha of the sacrifices, Lefisha Tchilu Sadibur Be'oil Mi'oil Moed, because the beginning of this conversation that resonates from the Oil Moed, Haisa Parsha Zu, was right after Parshas Pekude, right? That's right. there's an order to this Torah of ours, right? And it happens to be, we just read about the fact that the Yidden did everything possible to bring about a Gilui Shechina in the Mishkan, and they were successful. And then what happens? Vayikra el Moshe, v'yadaber elav, bring korbanos. These are the korbanos you're going to bring. Where? In this Mishkan. Which makes perfect sense. Okay, so it's the first mitzvah given. Aval zeh gufo tzarich biyur, the Rebbe says, but this itself requires explanation. Why is it that the Eibishter chose that the first mitzvah is taught in this fashion after the finishing of the Mishkan, etc., etc.? Why is it that the first mitzvahs were dafka korbanos? So, the first question was, why do we learn about Vayikra from korbanos? And what's Vayikra? Vayikra is that call of dearness to the Eibishter before he teaches Moshe Rabbeinu the mitzvah. And that happened every time the Eibishter says, V'yadaber Hashem el Moshe lemar. What comes before? That's 69 times in the Torah it says those words, V'yadaber Hashem el Moshe lemar. Every time has a Vayikra el Moshe before. It's just not written in the Torah. It's written in the Torah once. To tell us that every time it was that. There was this call of dearness before the Eibishter says, okay, let's get to work. Moshe Rabbeinu, what a life. It's just like beyond belief. This person walking around in a mazal. Okay, fine. So why do we learn that from korbanos? Okay, so you say, because korbanos were first. So then the Rebbe asks, why were they first? Anything else could have been first. The Rebbe could have picked anything else. Why dafka korbanos? That's our question. Umizeh mashma. From this it's understood. Moshe, could you just, thank you. Not that I don't love the sweet tones of Rabbi Levinger's voice. I just, only when I'm closing my eyes and listening with great conversation, and great concentration.
Rabbi, the call of dearness was to Moshe?
Every time God told Moshe a new mitzvah, he called out to him first. We only hear about it once in the Torah, in this week's parsha, first pasuk in this week's parsha. It's Rashi, first Rashi on this week. V'yesh leimer, Mizeh mashma, shagilui the Torah, the revelation of Torah. What's Torah? The revelation of the Eibishter in Elam Hazah. And what's that? That's in Yana Shel Elam Leid. What's the Elam Leid? The revelation of the Kadosh Baruch in Elam Hazah. Torah is the vehicle to bring about that revelation. Hu be'ikr b'dinei korbanos. The revelation of godliness that's brought about through Torah, the ikr of that is through avodas korbanos. Why? Let's see. Rebbe says an amazing thing. V'yesh leimer. The zeu gam. Now this mimer is going to be, well, we'll see. We'll see it in the oil space. V'yesh leimer. The zeu gam mashas sefer Vayikra. That's also why Sefer Vayikra, Sefer Korbanos, which is the book of Korbanos, hu achamur shebesfarim. In Gemara Brachos, it refers to you see it says Taisvus there. It refers to Vayikra as the most serious of the books, the most chamur of the books. The whole Torah is serious stuff. But no, Vayikra is the focal point of the whole Torah, and the Rebbe is now going to point out that it's after the middle book, and it's the third book, and the whole Torah is of three. Vayikra is a very, very central book in the Torah. Right? Vayikra might be the book that some people, when they get to Sefer Vayikra, go, oh, the interesting part of the Torah is over now. You know, like we have to get through Vayikra, and then we get to some good stories again, and then there's some good stuff in Bamidbar. But the good stuff, Bereshis is pretty exciting, right? You're living with Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Baruch, every day. It's exciting. It really is. It's just exciting. Shmeis, unbelievable. It's his Mitzrayim, Makes, Kriyas Yamsuf, Matan Torah, Mishkan. Wow. People get a little depressed by the Mishkan because it's so hard to get through the Chumash or get through Rashis, right? It's hard. They're hard Rashis. Okay, Beseda, you have your picture books. Vayikra. Vayikra. No, Vayikra. Wow, Vayikra. What's the first thing we teach children in Cheder? Sefer Vayikra. Start with Sefer Vayikra, not with branches.
Really?
Yeah, Sefer Vayikra. It's the first thing they learn. Right? Now, one of the, I'll peep shot. The reason is kids don't have the hang-ups that I just mentioned that we might have. Right? Kids are just learning Torah. Sweet Kabbalah soul, whatever you teach me, I'll learn. I know the difference between this and that. Okay, but Pnimius, see, look what the Rebbe is going to say about Sefer Vayikra. This is good. We're learning 3 days into Sefer Vayikra, so you'll spend the next. It's almost 2 months, right? It's probably more than 2 months. You'll spend 2 months excited about everything you're learning in Sefer Vayikra. V'zeu gam mashu Sefer HaShlishi. Sorry, yeah. V'zeu gam mashu Sefer HaShlishi. Tehei Svarim Shabbatai. It's the third book. The Mailas Torah. He Orayin Talisai. When Chazal talk, the Gemara in Shabbos talks about the fact that the Torah is of threes, right? First of all, the whole Torah is three: Torah, Nevi'im, Ksuvim, Tanakh. That's 3. Okay, but the Torah itself, right, is given in the 3rd month. It's given to a nation of 3: Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. On the 3rd month, and the Torah itself is a 3. That's Tanakh. The whole notion of the threes of the Torah. And what's the 3rd book of the Torah? Dafka Vayikra, which is the middle of the Torah. And what's there? The Mailas Torah, Shiur Rayin Tlisai, Hu Begilui Yeser. The Maila of the Torah is revealed more powerfully where? B'dinei Karbonos the Torah. The most powerful expression of Torah is in Dinei Karbonos. Wow! The Rebbe at the end of the Maamar, when he talks about the connection of this Maamar to Beis Nisan, says that that's the Rebbe Rashab. That's Chassidus. When was I mentioned earlier? What's the Beis Nisan is who? Yisachar. Who's Yisachar? Yisachar is Talmud Torah. Right? Why is Yisachar Talmud Torah? Because Yisachar and Zvulun made a deal, right? That Zvulun would make money and support Yisachar while Yisachar sat and learned Torah. And so the majority of the members of the Sanhedrin were from Shevet Yisachar because they were sitting learning Torah all day. Right? Because Zvulun was supporting them. So I mentioned him yesterday in the model Seder that the Bnei Yissaschar. Now he's called Yissaschar. I know the name is Yisachar, but he called his Sefer the Bnei Yissaschar. Why did he call his Sefer the Bnei Yissaschar? His Rebbe was the Chayz of Lublin. This is Rabbi Elimelech, Tzvi Elimelech of Dinov, right? Again, the nephew of Elimelech of Lizansk, named after Rabbi Elimelech, even though Elimelech was alive. That's why we mentioned the story yesterday. So the Bnei Yissaschar, he wrote an amazing Sefer in Chassidus that explains the panemius of 12 months and things. It's a great, you should get it, Bnei Yissaschar. It's a great Sefer, amazing Sefer. So go into Google and buy it. Aren't you allowed to buy Svarim that were written by Lubavitcher Rebbeim? Don't worry. I asked the rabbi once, it's mutter. Right? You should have a Kedushas Levi, you should have a Sfas Emes, you should have books written by these people who were the grandfathers of Chassidus in the early generations. The Neim Elimelech. Neim Elimelech, when the Alter Rebbe got out of jail, he was taken to the apartment of the Misnagid. He said the 3 hours in that apartment were more difficult than the 53 days in jail. Right? He was yelling at him, etc. So this Misnagid had he was a mamish Misnagid. He wasn't a non-chassid. He was a Misnagid, this person. So he was part of the people who had the Alter Rebbe put in jail and tried to have the Alter Rebbe killed. He had to say, he wanted to know who the Neim Elimelech was. So he had a sefer. He bought the sefer and he had it, but he wouldn't let anybody see it on his bookshelf. So he used to keep it under his couch. It's kept on the floor under one of the couches so that no one would see the sefer. But he wanted to know what did the Chassidim say. If you're going to hate someone, you should know what you hate. So he wanted to know. So when he asked the Alter Rebbe, what's with Rav Elimelech and Rav Elimelech, so the Alter Rebbe said, Rav Elimelech is such a humble person that if he himself were under your couch and not just his book, he wouldn't say a word. So the Tzvi Elimelech of Dinov, his Rebbe was the Chayz of Lublin, and And he once came to the Chayza and said that he has a tremendous hisarus every Hanukkah. He feels incredibly spiritually uplifted every Hanukkah, and it must be because he's a Gilgul of the Chashmonaim, and that his shorish is in Shevet Levi, that he's really a Koyet, because he has such a hisarus. And the Chayzav said to him, no, you're not from Shevet Levi, you're from Shevet Yisachar, and you sat on the beis din of the Hashmonaim. One of your Gilgulim, you sat on the beis din of the Hashmonaim, and that's why you have such a hisarus every Hanukkah, because you were there. And that's why he called the Sefer B'nai Yisachar. That's why he's called who he is, because the Chayza told him what the shorish of his neshama was, where he came from. Well, it's called B'nai Yisachar, even though there's two sins, we only pronounce one. In the Torah also, we only pronounce one. But he called his Sefer, when we say his Sefer, we say B'nai Yisachar. I don't know why. But you can do it, the Kabbalah is always simple. Call him B'nai Yisachar. V'zeu gam, shezeh shelekol dibreis, that which, to all of the dibreis, Atara, Kadma Kriya, Loshen Hiba, that there was this Kriya before, which is this language of dearness. Lameidim, where do we learn it from? We learn it from Parshas HaKarbanos. Why? Because that's the ikr of the whole Torah. The ikr Gilui Elokus in the Torah is Dinei Karbanos. Ki gam mai lezu de Torah. Also, this lofty aspect of the Torah, that every aspect of the Torah was preceded by an expression of the Eibishter's dearness for Moshe and the Jewish people, and the Torah is an expression of that endearment. Iker Gilu Shalai B'Dinei Karbanos. The Iker Gilu of that also is Dinei Karbanos. It's not 8:30, so I can go a couple of lines further. Just to see where we're going. And we'll go as far as we can go tomorrow. V'yesh levar zeh al pi ma shekosav adam marshav nishmas edom bali lulud beis nisan b'ma'amar di b'mas adam ki yakriv. Okay, we knew we were going to get to the Rebbe Shab somehow, because the Rebbe is saying this mimer again. Gimel Nisan, 53 years ago to today. 53 years ago was Parshas Vayikra, and the Rebbe said this mimer. Right, and the mimer is based. Now, why did the Rebbe say the Rebbe said the mimer on Gimel Nisan that was connected to Beis Nisan, which is the Erev Shabbos, and the Yemi Lula of the Rebbe Shab, and this whole mimer, everything we're going to learn now is based on the Rebbe Shab from Adam Ki Yakriv, a very famous mimer of the Rebbe Shab from Parshas Vayikra, Taf Reish Samach Vav. It's part of the famous Hemshech Samach Vav. And in Samach Vav, there are different hemshechim, there are different topics that come up, and I think it's reasonable to say the most famous part of Samach Vav, and the part that's learned, it was being learned across the wall, right? That the Talmidim of Rabbi Kaplan asked him if he would teach them the Hemshech of a Chodesh, right? Which is Samach Vav, right? They had heard about that, and they wanted to learn that. So that's what they've been learning all winter. The Hemshech of HaChodesh, which is very, 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 very amazing Maimarim. And this is part of that Hemshech. I mean, the Hemshech continues up until the Midbar. Right? So this Maimer is part of that Hemshech, Adam Ki Yakriv. Now, Adam Ki Yakriv is our Parsha. Adam Ki Yakriv Mikem Korban Lavaya, Mina Behema, Mina Bakar, Mina Tzayin, right? Basi Lagani. So the Rebbe Shab was always called the Rebbe Nishmas Eden. Rebbe always refers to the Rebbe Shab as the Rebbe Nishmas Eden. Right? Now you take out the brackets, right, of the Rebbe's name, just Admar Nishmas Eden. When someone says the Rebbe Nishmas Eden, it means the Rebbe Shab. That's who they're referring to. Rashab is with Shalom Dev Bear. Shalom Bear, but Shalom Dev Bear. That's why there are a lot of Lubavitchers with that name. He was named after two people. Shalom Sachna. Shalom Sachna was the husband of Devorah Leah, the Alter Rebbe's daughter, who gave up her life for her father. Right? The father of the Tzemach Tzedek. That was Shalom Sachna. right? Leah came to her father when she heard her father tell the Chassidim that he was not going to be written into the book of life on Rosh Hashanah, so she came to her father before Rosh Hashanah and insisted that she be in place of him. And he said he would only do this if he got an okay from her husband. Her husband, Shalom Sachna, was invited into the conversation, and he said, who will take care of the boy? What's going to happen to my son? The Alter Rebbe said, I will. And the Tzemach Tzedek lived in the Alter Rebbe's room. He grew up as a little boy in the Alter Rebbe's room. Used to walk around with little pieces of potato as tefillin, right? Because the potato, when it's out in the air, turns black. So he took down little pieces of potato and found some string, and he put them on his head, and he put them on his arm, and he used to walk around with tefillin.
Tzemach Tzedek?
When he was a little boy. He lived in the Alter Rebbe's room. He grew up in the Alter Rebbe's room. He didn't grow up in Gan Eden. You know what I mean? So Shalom, he was named after Shalom Sachna, and Dave Bear. Who would Dave Bear be? The Mittler Rebbe and the Maggid of Mezritch, right? The Mittler Rebbe was named after the Mezritcher Maggid. Shalom Dabber was named after the Mittler Rebbe, but which they're both the same generation. Interesting enough, right? Shalom Sachna is the same generation as the Mittler Rebbe. He's married to the Mittler Rebbe's sister, right? So Shalom Dabber, but also the Maggid. Right? Let's just see one line and then we'll stop. The L'cha'ura have le'leimar asks a question in the pasuk. Why does it say Adam ki yakriv? What we're going to learn about tomorrow is the union of Adam. Why say Adam ki yakriv? What should it say? Ki sakrivu, when you sacrifice. Why Adam ki yakriv? Now we know Rashi on the pasuk. What does Rashi on the pasuk say? I'll pretend I'm Rabbi Vichnan and you're not going to do it next week, so I can be Rabbi Vichnan. I heard Rabbi Vichnan Senior do Rashi questions. That was an experience. Actually, I've never heard Rabbi Vichnan Jr. do it. But Rabbi Vichnan Senior, wow. He wrote the book, not the Torah, the Chumash questions.
What was his style like?
I've never seen Rabbi Vichnan Jr., but Rabbi Vichnan Senior, they were scared stiff to not say the right answer. He was a very soft person, but they were saying. I remember. I was only there once. I went to visit him, and he said, "I'm doing Chumash questions. Come sit with me." So I was sitting next to him. The whole zal he's got everybody in the zal. No one didn't show, but everybody was there. The students who were already, a little more holy than the Rebbe, and the beginners, they were all there. No one was allowed not to be there. And one of the students who became very, very instrumental in the continue after Rabbi Vichtan passed away and Rabbi Fitchi Lipser passed away, so the Rosh Yeshiva and the main Mashpia in Morristown passed away. Morristown went through a lot of changes, and so a new yeshiva was opened up in Seagate by Rabbi Avram Lipsker, who was the brother of Fitchi Lipsker, who Avram Lipsker was sort of the menahel of everything. He was he was in charge. So he opened up a new yeshiva in Seagate, and this fellow Rashi was very, very involved in that, in helping his teacher open it up. Rashi Weingarten, I think his last name was. So his name was Rashi. What was his first name? Was Rashi. So, this was hard to forget. So this was, 35 years ago at least. So Rabbi Vichnan asked the question, and he looks at Rashi and goes, Rashi, what does Rashi say? So he didn't know. Your name is Rashi! Tore into this poor kid, your name is Rashi, and you don't know what Rashi says. What's wrong with you? How can you possibly not know every Rashi on the Torah? He was a very gentle person. He was an intellectual on a certain level, Rabbi Vichnan. His son is not, he knows a tremendous amount, he's brilliant, right? But he's not an intellectual, that's a personality, right? His father was a certain intellectual. He had those big black glasses. A different personality, but a very special person, unbelievable guy. His students just adored him. But he Chumash classes, he was tough. And no one didn't show. There's no such thing. I begged Rabbi Vichlin to do Chumash questions here because there were times when he didn't do it because people didn't take it seriously enough and it annoyed him. So we just stopped and begged him, no, you have to do it, you have to do it, you have to do it. So Baruch Hashem, we started up again. It's so important, right? But now everybody's too holy for Rashi. Rashi. I learned Chassidus Rashi. Who's Rashi? Just someone that the Rebbe said a Sicha about every single Fabrengen. That's who Rashi is. Right? If you're so holy that you're such a chassid that you can't learn Rashi, well, I don't know. The Rebbe does. The Rebbe got it over the head for teaching Rashi Sichas. Okay, still did it. Right? Meaning there were people older than the Rebbe who were upset. Right? Did it anyway. So let's just see the question and we'll stop. Without the word Adam. Oh, I asked you why. So what does Rashi say Adam means? Why does it say Adam? What do we learn from Adam in this week's parsha? First, like the Rashi, right at the beginning, by first pasuk and the second pasuk. One of the things we learn, Rashi brings the medrash that says that you can't bring a korban from something that's stolen. And how do you learn that from Adam? Well, Adam was the only person on earth. And so obviously couldn't steal anything from anybody because everything was his, because he was the only one there. So just like Adam was the only person on earth and therefore any korban he brought was his, so too every person has to bring a korban. It can't be brought from Gezel. That's one of the dinim that Chazal learned from the fact that the word Adam is Rashi brings that medrash in his parish on the Torah. Right? It's one of the things. Okay, so why does it have the word Adam b'chlal? Because Rashi also asked the question, why does it say Adam? Just say ki sakrivu, when you, generic, sacrifice. Umibli la'azkir mi hu makriv, without telling us who's the makriv. Okay, we'll stop there. What the Rebbe is going to teach us tomorrow, and I just want to tell you it's worth getting up. What the Rebbe is going to teach us tomorrow, you guys do, Baruch Hashem, you guys are amazing. It's going to bring a Zayar and a Medrash. The Zayar and the Medrash give two answers to the question that seem very similar. And he's going to explain. I was learning this last night when my wife and I were sitting at the table, and I was getting all excited, and because it was out loud, and my wife was listening, and I said, like, how did anybody understand anything before Chassidus? No one would have asked this question. There's a Zayar and a Medrash, and the Rebbe Rashab says this unbelievable pshat in the subtle difference between what the Zayar says and what the Medrash says. That ends up teaching us everything we have to know about Kabbalah. Everything. It all comes from what we're going to see in the next few lines. Because the whole Maamar is based on the next few lines. So we'll see that tomorrow.
Thank you.
What's makriv?
What?
What's makriv?
Sacrifice. A korban.
And Nishmas Eidim, meaning the soul of the witnesses?
His soul is in Eden.
Is it in... Oh,
Gan Eden.
got it.
His soul is in Eden. But you must say Eden.
Or this...
Okay. Now how do I title this? I've got this big problem. It's the beginning of this and the end of that and the...
Just to confirm.